I remember that just the amazing experience of money coming miraculously. People just coming up to me and giving me money in my hand. But the experience I remember more was the day that it stopped happening. And I'm like, God, what's happened? Hang on a minute. This was not part of the plan. I love the miraculous flow of money. Start it again, Lord. What's going on? No one's come up to me today. And it was literally, my hotel bill was $40 a night. I think I might have that wrong, whatever it was. But pretty much, it was $40 a night, and people would come up to me, here's $40. So I was literally just getting it as I needed it, and no more. And, God, goodness. I lived on the hotel donuts and coffee, basically. It would come, and then it stopped, and I'm saying, God, what's going on? What's going on? So I called home to my dad. They were all praying for me because they knew I was nuts. And I said to my dad, I said, the money's stopped, Dad. I don't know what's going on. So they said, well, we'll pray for you. It's really annoying when you need money and people say, we'll pray for you, isn't it? So they prayed for me, and they got a word that I would be fed by the ravens. And of course I wanted to say, well, how very spiritual of you. But the funny thing was, there I was, sat on my suitcase in downtown Pensacola, not sleeping, because you don't sleep in America, as far as I'm aware, anywhere called downtown anything. You do not go to sleep. Not if you want to have that suitcase and your clothes. So I sat there on my suitcase, and it's early in the morning, and some homeless people came up to me and started talking to me. How nice, isn't it? But, they might not be literal ravens, but, they're kind of like ravens. And they said to me, how you doing? And we chatted and we talked. And they said, you hungry? And they took me to Perfect, was it Perfect Pizza? It was a pizza place. Anyway, they took me and they bought me pizza. And they fed me. And I was fed by the ravens. But, and I have that story because of just one step. It doesn't mean I didn't begin to sink. I began to sink in downtown Pensacola. I was sat on that suitcase, as I recall, for 3 days without sleeping. I don't know if you begin to hallucinate, don't you? When you don't sleep for 3 days, you start seeing, I was looking up in the sky, seeing all kinds of weird stuff going on. In other words, I took a step and God allowed me to begin to sink. I began to sink. And I cried out to God, and God did answer, but not before I tasted what the salt water was like in that sea. But I have a story. I love that story. I love being able to tell that story because it's something that I went through with God, and it's real, and it's supernatural, and I can say, well, wow, God is real, and God answers prayer. And God does stuff, but if you never step out of the boat, the only story, I'll tell you what story they had in the boat. The only story they had was Peter's story. I was in a boat once, and this guy called Peter walked on water. Oh, and he sunk anyway. That's how when other people are looking at you doing things, they're right. Well, he walked on water, but look, he sunk. What a waste of time. If I'd walked on water, I wouldn't have sunk. I'd have kept my eyes on Jesus. That's what I would have done. I wouldn't have failed like him. They only had Peter's story, but Peter had his story. Well, I failed, but Jesus picked me up. I failed, but I walked on water. I failed, but those 3 steps, that I took on the water taught me more than I'd ever learned in my Bible in my whole life. Because you'll learn more by walking the Bible than you will by reading the Bible.